Hey, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Whitney.
We started this true crime podcast over a glass of wine and quickly turned from true crime listeners into true crime advocates.
So get comfy, pop a cork, and grab a glass because we have work to do.
This is Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. This Monday comes with lots of fun announcements.
Yes, very exciting things are happening in the CC&C world.
Yes, it is. If you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to be in a calendar. Podcastcalendars.com is where you can get it. You can get a discount if you use the code Cabernet.
And it's almost the new year, so you need to put in your order ASAP.
Yes, because you want to be able to flip it over on the 1st and see our smiling faces.
Because we're in the month of January. So if you buy it in February, you're too late.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So buy it now. The next super exciting thing that's beyond exciting, and I keep forgetting about it and then remembering, and then I'm like, oh my God, is Whitney and I will be going to CrimeCon in the UK.
I'm so excited. We're going across the pond. We are going with a bunch of other friends. We've got some great podcast friends. We're going to meet some new podcast friends. And you can still get tickets for it.
Exactly. Yes. We have a code for you. Cabernet 23 will get you in the door. And you just have to fly over there if you're from America. If not, we love to see locals.
Yeah, absolutely. All of our local England, it's in London in June. So it's hopefully there will be good weather. And it's not just going to be like rain. If not, who cares? We're in London.
I know. Rain and gloom, that's what I'm expecting already. So I'm just so excited to be going with my bestie.
Yes, I'm excited. I really want to try the beans on toast thing. It's been all over my TikTok lately, and I really feel like we've just got to give it a go.
Of course, we have to give that a go. Very excited to try a bunch of different things over there.
And that's really it. So, Melissa, you got your wine?
I do. I am drinking a red blend, Lost Poet. I did talk about this on our UK video as well. It's just what I've been having lately. And I love that it says wine is poetry.
Oh, that's cute.
Adorbs.
All right, let's get into it.
All right. Today, we will be traveling to the beautiful island of Hawaii, to the island of Kauai.
Yeah, that's where Jeff and I honeymooned.
Oh, how freaking cute. Awesome.
Yeah, I loved it there. It's beautiful.
Yes. This island is nicknamed the Garden Isle because pretty much the entire thing is a rainforest. Tourism is the largest industry, with somewhere around 100,000 to 140,000 people visiting every month. That is a lot of tourists, if you ask me, and I live in Florida.
That is a lot of tourists. But the best part about it is it's such a tiny island. You can see the whole island on your trip.
Yes.
Rent a car, do it. Go to the taro fields. Like, I cannot speak highly enough of this island. I want to go back so bad.
I want to go. I've never been to Hawaii, but my brother currently lives there, so I'm like, I need to go.
Yeah.
According to crimegrade.com, the crime on the island is rated as a B-, so not horrible. It has a slightly lower crime rate than the U.S. average, so way to go there. It has a crime rate of 31.26 per 1,000 residents for a typical year. There are some pretty rough areas, just like any other place. And those areas, a person could be a victim of a crime as high as 1 out of every 17. These places, like it's just certain neighborhoods on the island, but they're rated enough. It's pretty. But on the other hand, the whole island has less than 1 murder per year on average. So I guess that's good as well.
Yeah.
We're going all the way back to 1979 for today's story of young love and then horrible tragedy. Paul Featherman, who went by the name Sonny, was born February 26th of 1952 to parents Paul and Helen in New Jersey. He was the second son. He had a half-brother named Ralph. In his childhood, the family would move to Cape Canaveral, Florida, and where he would eventually meet and fall in love with Nancy Ellen Baugh. She was born May 16th of 1959 to parents Clarence and Betty. She had an older sister and 3 older brothers, and she was the baby of the family. She was described as warm, loving, and fun. She loved animals and plants, anything that she could nurture and take care of. That was her jam. Nancy's family also lived in New Jersey at one point and eventually moved and would spend half their time in Cocoa Beach, Florida. She had a lot of extended family in Hawaii, and her immediate family would visit very often to the islands. Her brothers, uncles, and cousins were very involved in the surfing scene. So what better place to go in the States than to Hawaii?
Absolutely. I also learned how to surf there.
Aw, I would love to do that someday. In 1976, Sonny and Nancy would meet and fall in love very fast. Nancy was only 17 years old and living at home, while Sonny was making plans to move to Hawaii that coming winter. Of course, Nancy wanted to go with him, but her parents told her she had to wait until she turned 18 years old. So on May 16th of 1977, exactly on Nancy's birthday, Sonny sent her a dozen roses and a plane ticket to join him in paradise.
How adorable.
The sweetest, sweetest. They both had a love of horticulture and they wanted to grow their own food and plants on their own land. By 1978, they thought they were ready to take the plunge of being landowners. So they set their sights for the Big Island. They lived there for 3 months trying to make a land deal happen, only to eventually be disappointed and return to the island of Kauai. And they rented a small house close to the beach. By this time, Sonny was around 27 years old and Nancy was 20 years old. I do want to say she was yes, she was the baby of the family, but she was very mature for her age. Growing up with older siblings, she probably grew up quicker than the oldest. Sonny gets a job as a cook at a local resort. And then a few months later, Nancy would get a waitressing job at the same resort. Nancy doesn't have her driver's license, so working at the same place helps them be able to keep their schedules the same so that the couple could carpool together. So you can only imagine how much time they spent together. It just seems like a whirlwind romance. We're going to go live in Hawaii, live off the land, work. I just am so jealous.
It does give very Nicholas Sparks vibes.
Exactly. On June 2nd, 1979, the couple attended a party of a friend and coworker. Nothing out of the ordinary was reported about this party, and they leave around 10:30 p.m. because they both have to work early the next morning. These two were very punctual and responsible and honestly never missed work. They always planned ahead of time. They left the party at 10:30. They're in their 20s. They have 0 responsibilities except for their job, and they're like, "Hey, we gotta leave at 10:30. We have to be up early." The next morning, the couple never arrived at work. Yeah, the resort manager couldn't get a hold of them, so he called in a coworker to cover for them. This so happens to be the man that threw the party the night before. The guy, I am sure, was annoyed because he didn't leave at 10:30 and was up late, but he answers and he's, "Okay, I'm gonna stop by their house on the way in, maybe give them a hard time, wake them up," because they were the ones that should have been at work and not him.
Sure.
But when he got there, he noticed the front door opened. I don't know if this part is strange or not, but he decided not to go into the house alone. Maybe he was scared, maybe he knew something was off. So he actually went and got a neighbor, and the both of them walked into the house together. And that is when they found something out of a nightmare. Sonny was naked, laying face down near the bedroom door with a pillow underneath him, a pool of blood underneath his head. No sign of Nancy. The theory was Sonny got up from bed hearing an intruder. He grabbed a pillow to cover himself because he was naked, and he walks to the bedroom door, opens it up, and as soon as he opens the door, he is shot. The duo that came in and found this scene, they call 911 around 9:07 a.m. It comes out that Sonny was shot with a 12-gauge shotgun to the face.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, gruesome scene. Nothing was missing, even though there was a handful of cash inside a dresser drawer. The house was neat and orderly, just like it always was. So robbery was ruled out pretty quickly. They had zero idea where Nancy could be originally. But police would soon learn that she was a victim in all of this as well, because this part's going to piss you off. Neighbors would come forward with what they heard and seen that night, but they never called authorities.
What the hell?
And I say a few, we're talking about 7 neighbors.
Holy crap.
Yes. Heard a gunshot and then a woman screaming, and many of them just went back to sleep. Yes. They said they could hear a woman screaming, no. They heard a rough man's voice. Some of them described they could hear or some saw men dragging a woman out with a blanket covering her while she was screaming and thrashing. And no one called authorities.
Oh my
Okay?
God. People, if you see something, say something.
Seriously.
You heard a gunshot. You saw someone being taken against their will.
Exactly.
And I know this is unsolved because that's what we do. So now I'm even more outraged.
Exactly. And shotguns are loud, correct?
Yes. There's no silencer for shotguns.
Yes. 7. I just still cannot believe the number of people that did not call. Okay. Another tip that came in the following days was that from a person that stated someone told them. So this is getting like third party type of thing. Someone told them that a guy that was illegally camping on the beach saw 2 men dragging a woman down the beach that night. However, this person didn't call the police either. And when police eventually tracked him down, he denied ever saying that or seeing anything. He said, nope, wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. Even though people are saying he's saying this to his friends and other people in the community, he's just not telling police. Researching this case, I have come across many reports of people not wanting to get involved or saying that they cannot say anything out of fear. Okay. If this man did see 2 men dragging a struggling woman down the beach, this would be the last time Nancy was ever seen alive. Sonny's parents, all the way back in Florida, received an anonymous call before police could even positively identify his body and notify next of kin. They received this call stating Sonny was dead. They've never figured out who made that call.
That's weird.
It's very weird. And periodically,
this is back in the 70s, so like they don't have decent phone records.
Yes.
To trace a number.
Yes. And periodically over like years, his parents would receive letters and anonymous phone calls saying random things about who either did it or things that they know about the case.
So the murderer is taunting his family.
Possibly.
Or someone is just messing with a family who's hurting.
Someone knows something. They are too scared to say anything, but then they are going to call and maybe give clues and in hopes maybe they have a guilty conscience. I'm not really for sure on what all this means. It's just very weird. Okay, this case really goes cold after a couple of months. There's not much to go on. But 33 years later, in 2012, the island received massive rainfall and flooding. We're talking 28.5 inches in a 24-hour period. That seems astronomical to me, and I, once again, live in Florida. Nowhere near Florida's rainfalls. If we get a couple inches in 24 hours, we have flooding. This is
Mhm.
28 inches.
Yeah.
So, because of this rain, remains were uncovered and they were spotted by a passerby. And it ends up the DNA from these remains matched Betty, which is Nancy's mother. So, after all this time, they found Nancy. Police thought that this would be their big break in the case, but honestly, it had been so much time. Authorities were not able to get much information. They did state that Nancy was killed very quickly after she was taken. Few hours. She wasn't held somewhere for any length of time.
I don't wanna say that's refreshing, but no
I
one
know.
wants to hear about torture.
Yes. Those neighbors slash witnesses pretty much clammed up after saying that they heard someone screaming. There are many reports that this area was like the Wild West, and people were truly scared to come forward. In the area would state they know what happened on that dreadful night. No one will give names, but the communities we know. We know who did it. We know there's actually even a report that once these remains in 2012 were uncovered, everyone already knew it was Nancy before they ever tested the DNA. That's just what I hear in the world. So here are a few of the theories that police checked into, because this does seem freakishly random. Based on the fact that Nancy was taken, initial thoughts were that she was the target and Sonny was an obstacle the killer needed to remove to get to Nancy. So authorities started to see who might want to take Nancy. They came up with an ex-boyfriend. This guy would apparently send her threatening letters and he wanted to get back with her. And this is all before social media. So we're talking about sending letters in the mail.
It took
I-
days to want to take her.
yes. The, they dated before she ever moved to Hawaii. So this is like when she's a teenager. So this guy obviously lives back in the state, and he was actually recovering from a bad motorcycle accident at the time. So he was ruled out quickly. I hope he feels bad for what he said or didn't say to her. Another theory or kind of strange behavior that came up from Nancy herself is that a few months prior to her kidnapping, her parents visit her and Sonny in Hawaii. While there, Nancy would be visibly frightened, and her mother could tell that she was uncomfortable walking around town. When the mother asked Nancy about this, she told her that a few guys around town would always stare at her, and she felt like she was being followed. So this is also very weird. And we're going to put a picture of Nancy, obviously, on our social media. Nancy is breathtakingly beautiful. And just her like whimsical lifestyle. So she did have these fears about people around the town, probably specific people, which we're going to get into possibly who. Too often, we talk about the theory of drugs or a drug deal going south. They're young. They had a very small amount of marijuana in their house. And during this time in Hawaii, there were a lot of illegal marijuana farms popping up like crazy. I was doing research. There was actually a few tourists who went missing and ended up dead because they may have stumbled upon something illegal that certain people may not want to get out. So could they have done that? But the fact that they went into their house and it wasn't just like them driving and stumbled upon something leads me away from there. I read reports of a house fire in a nearby town the same night as the home invasion. And this house had drug ties. People are like, could there be a connection between these? honestly, I am sure if there was a connection, police would have figured it out very quickly because it was probably one of the only leads police could even look into. There was zero evidence of forced entry. So, was it someone the couple knew? Did someone come over and hang out after the party?
Maybe.
Okay.
Or
This
maybe they were just young and didn't lock doors.
That's very true, and in their lifestyle of being like, "Hey, we wanna own land, we wanna just chill out," a kind of thing. Like, I could only
Well,
imagine in the '70s, they were like, "Who needs to lock their doors?"
and that's the way Hawaiian or island life is. Everyone's very chill. Everyone's on their own schedule. When we went, there was no like opening times. It was whenever they got to the stores when the store
Oh,
opened or the restaurants. Like it's a very just relaxed lifestyle.
I was gonna say relax. Yeah, so they totally could have not locked the door. The 2 didn't have any enemies. They were quiet and well-liked. They worked and spent the majority of their time together, saving up money. They weren't like the party type that was out throwing thousands of dollars around. I think it was reported that they had about $800 in cash in that drawer, which I looked it up. It's somewhere around the $3,000 mark now, not a significant sum of money. She's 20, so in a 20-year-old, I think it's a significant amount of money. But I mean, that just goes to show they've been saving up this money to buy land. They're not frivolous at all.
That's what I was gonna say. That was probably their life savings.
Yeah. Just like any other place, there are quite a few organized crime groups or gangs, we can call them. Starting in the 1960s, a well-known group called the yeah, Yazuka Mafia made Hawaii home. They were immigrants from Japan and they were into some pretty dark things. Could that have anything to do with it? There's also a few surf gangs that will literally protect their territory at all costs. However, Nancy and Sonny were not, "Oh, I'm gonna go take your territory because I just wanna surf here."
Yeah.
They weren't those type of people.
They weren't claiming anyone's beaches.
They were not. They're like, "Let's go to work, let's go home." They liked plants. I both of them were obsessed with growing plants. It just boggles my mind. One of the other theories that came up was about some well-known brothers on this particular island. I do not know these brothers' names, okay, because no one will say their names. These
Th
men,
They shall not be named.
apparently, these men, if they are real and not just some like folklore, they were very violent and dangerous, and literally everyone on the island was afraid of them. They would take what they wanted, even law enforcement left them alone, which I don't know how true this is. I'm just putting this out there. These could be the men that Nancy was talking about having this fascination with her.
Could be.
Now, this comes Web Sleuth Forum page, so take that what it's worth. But a commenter on there stated it was the brothers who committed this crime, and there's a few other people involved. These brothers, whoever they are, have since passed on, but people will still not say their names because they're connected like crazy, they say. This one particular commenter also stated that one of the brothers specifically told him about what happened that night. And he said he just said it as casually as you could. I had so many thoughts that I'm just going to message this commenter and chat with him, but I didn't have any wine at that moment. So I was chicken. But maybe we could do that because this needs to be solved. And especially if that many people state they know exactly what happened, these people are dead. Just tell someone that's not in that doesn't live there, and maybe we can push police in the right direction.
Yeah. Or don't do local law enforcement. Say, "Hey, here's a tip, FBI. I have some information here that you may want to relay down the road."
Exactly, exactly. On February 7th of 2014, Nancy's remains were cremated and sent back to her family in New Jersey, where they would take half of the cremated remains and scatter them in the bay up there. The other half they would bring down to Cocoa Beach because those were both places that Nancy loved, and she loved the water and the beaches. Her brother stated, quote, "From that moment on, it changed my family and our lives forever. It's been very traumatic for years. If my parents were around, we couldn't talk about them at all. It was their only daughter, their youngest child, and they wouldn't talk about it." I know. Her being the baby, and I'm sure they all felt like her protector. Oh, anyone with information related to Paul Sonny Featherman's murder or Nancy Baugh's murder should contact Kauai Special Investigator John Burris. He's been on the case for quite some time. You can reach him at 808-241-1734. There's also a special investigator, Joe Aderick, or Paul Conahoe at 808-241-1757. The FBI were on this case at one point in time. So we'll add that into the show notes in case you do not want to deal with the police department in the local area, and that
Wow.
is Hawaii.
Wow.
I know. It's tragic. It is,
It is tragic. And you know how my mind works. I'm such a visual person. So you're talking about these two brothers, and I immediately picture the two twin bad guy brothers from Tangled.
oh, yes.
These big, burly, no
That's
one, like everyone is afraid of them, kind of a Phil.
Yeah, and especially in Hawaii, I think Samoan,
Mhm.
huge dudes. Yeah. They
Like The Rock, but bad.
Oh my god, yes, that's exactly what I picture in my mind as well. Crazy stuff.
I hope they find something.
Yeah, I hope some of those people that didn't come forward with something, because it's weighing heavy on their hearts.
Okay.
Maybe a deathbed confession or something.
Listen, I'm sure law enforcement will take whatever they can. Just by listening to our content, you too are advocating for justice for these families. Thank you for making a difference in their lives as well.
We want to share a few ways you can support us to continue our mission. You can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $1 per month, or a simple rate and review on your favorite podcast platform helps us get in front of someone who may know something.
We will continue traveling state by state seeking justice because we will be there no matter where,
no matter who.